Hi everyone, and welcome to this ninth, I have to check that one, ninth episode of Between the Grooves, the vinyl collection, where I dive deeply into my record collection and pull out gems from different years, going back to about 1955 to the present day. This episode we're looking at 1973, and probably the most seminal album, most important album maybe that came out in 1973, has had a lot talked about. A lot has been said about this album, but it needs to be said again. It's The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Interestingly, that wasn't the original title of the album. The original title was actually Eclipse, or rather the working title, and ultimately released as The Dark Side of the Moon. Has the absolutely iconic front cover design there, designed by Hypnosis, who went on to design many classic album covers. Great documentary actually about Hypnosis if you can dig it out. This is really is the product. This is an album that was created and curated in a studio. Really, many rock bands go out on tour. They rehearse their songs, they play them live, and then they're kind of ready to go into a studio. And I think for a lot of sort of classic rock bands, maybe like Thin Lizzy or bands of that Black Sabbath, that's really how songs were written and put together. But for Pink Floyd, they were kind of like scientists, really, engineers, really, and they go into a studio and they'd create an album, and they went to town on this album, The Dark Side of the Moon. It is a seminal album. It is credited to all the members of Pink Floyd, Mason, Walters, Gilmour, and Wright, and it has the classic songs like the Time. It has Money on there, Us and Them, Brain Damage, and the closing song Eclipse. I was actually quite lucky once to do. I spoke about doing backing vocals for a great band called Iron Tiger, who did basically a Queen set with orchestra. The same sort of unit, not Iron Tiger, but the same producers also put together Pink Floyd with orchestra, and I was lucky enough to sing Eclipse on that live show, which I still have that recording somewhere. All lyrics by Roger Waters. I will probably talk more about Roger Waters as we go through these episodes. I've got a bit of a hero worship thing going on. One of my heroes, Waters. I know he can be a little controversial at times and maybe a bit of an arse. But yeah, I love Waters. I love his take on lyrics and his take on the human psyche and what have you. And I think Dark Side of the Moon is known for being a dark album that sort of explores life, death, mental health as well. And this is sort of around the time when they're still trying to get over the loss of not lost, he didn't die, right? But he left the band. Sid Barrett, who had really struggled with his mental health, and they couldn't really continue with him in the band. And I think that had a profound effect, especially on Waters. And a lot of the lyrical content on this album sort of covers those kind of themes. I mean, it is a breathtaking album, isn't it? I mean, it's just absolutely wonderful. It's considered an absolute stone cold classic. It is one of the best selling albums of all time. I think it actually originally stayed in the charts for 741 consecutive weeks from 1973 to 1988. It's only then did it it dropped a little further out of the charts, and then kind of came back again. So it's kind of consistently been up there, since it was released. I love it. It's not my favourite Pink Floyd album. I've got a real soft spot for The Wall, and I would probably listen to Wish You Were Here, or even Animals. But I think it's a special occasion when I put on Dark Side of the Moon. Like many Pink Floyd albums and many prog albums, I would say the same for some of my other favourite bands like Marillion or Opeth or what have you. But you can't you can't simply listen to one track or one side of Dark Side of the Moon. You've got to listen to the lot from beginning to end. It's a journey. It's an experience. And it also contains the Great Gig in the Sky, which is an instrumental which contains the most astonishing sort of female vocal performance, which my choir leader and musical director Jane performed on the live show that I did. I don't really. It's very difficult to think about what to say about Dark Side of the Moon, really, because everything has, as I say, kind of been said. Documentaries have been made about this album. Whole books have been written about the creation of this album. So I just think from a personal point of view, it is up there in my top favourite albums of all time. Yes, I would. There are a few other Pink Floyd albums that I might go to first, but I think, as I say, it's an occasion when I put on Dark Side of the Moon. Maybe that is what it is. Maybe it's I have that fear of over listening to it, and so I kind of preserve it, and like an archaeological find, and only sort of take it out on rare occasions to amaze and astonish my friends and peers. But Dark Side of the Moon is, a wonderful. It's a piece of art. It's incredible. It's a group of sensational musicians and lyricists who came together, went into their laboratory and created something quite spectacular. So yeah, Dark Side of the Moon. Have to talk. If you're going to talk about 1973, you have to talk about Dark Side of the Moon. The next album I'm going to talk about is, and I've talked about this band a few times, and I think it's a little difficult when I'm kind of going through the years, and there's kind of reasons why I'm not jumping too far ahead, because I have to kind of talk about what's come before. So, in these sort of first years that I'm doing, there will be bands that will come up on a fairly regular basis. So I've talked about Genesis, and so if you've seen my other podcast, you'll know what a fan and what an admirer I am of Genesis, all flavours of Genesis. From the early Gabriel years to his latter period, to the middle period where sort of Collins took over, and then slowly for them sort of morphing into a far more, I guess, commercial and radio friendly band. But I have to mention this one. This is probably top two, top three best Genesis album, certainly from the Gabriel years. This is Selling England by the pound. A lot of the songs on here are kind of conceptual, I think, in nature. They kind of have that kind of lovey, sort of whimsical, very British, very English sort of feel to them. Again, it's obviously elaborate compositions because it is Genesis, but I think it's one of the tightest, most compact albums that they did during the Genesis. During the Gabriel period. Lovely artwork as well, very sort of whimsical, sort of British English country garden sort of album cover there. Based on Betty Sandwick. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, Betty Sandwick. If you look at her sort of art, it's this kind of look and feel. Lovely, gorgeous cover there. It also contains probably their first hit radio-friendly song. I Know What I Like, brackets, In Your Wardrobe. Rather peculiar title, very peculiar song actually. got a very slightly strange, odd beginning with the sound of a lawnmower in the distance, and Gabriel sort of introduces the song and off it goes. But it's quite a catchy little number. This obviously does still have Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, Steve Hackett was still in the band at this point, Tony Banks, and of course Peter Gabriel. It also has one of their sort of in terms of Genesis live shows. There's a song on here called Fur for Fifth that Genesis pretty much played throughout their career. An incredible sort of piece of music, and it is that. And I think it's of the Genesis period. Yeah, we talk about Foxtrot because it's got Supper's Ready on it, which is an astonishing piece of work, and the first time really that maybe a band in the progressive arena kind of took ideas and sort of melding them together into one suite of music. But I think for me, selling England by the Pound is Genesis' sort of quintessential Genesis album. Love it. It's a beautiful album, really concise, beautifully produced, and just great. So selling England by the Pound by Genesis, 1973 as well. Okay, so I'm now going to do two albums in a row, and I cannot, I was quite taken aback when I was looking at the albums that I have from 1973, and I thought, really? These two albums were produced and released in the same year by the same artist, and both of them are astonishingly good albums. The creative output from Elton John during this period is just, the only other artist I can kind of think of that was just putting out as music by the sackload, and really high quality music at that time was probably David Bowie. So two albums released in 1973 by Elton John. One, a very commercial album. A few hit singles came off of it, but it is really a kind of a singles album, song, and they all have a kind of a muchness of a feel. And then the next album, well, just kind of blew the lid off Elton, and he was obviously well famous by that point, but he went Rocket Man at that point, stratospheric. So the first album, I really like this Elton John album. It is eclipsed by the next album I'm going to talk about, greatly eclipsed, I think, by the album that I'm going to talk about after. But I really like this album, and I probably listen to this more. It's one of my favourite Elton John albums. This is Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player by Elton John. It's very sort of nostalgic sort of cover there, sort of harking back to, I guess, the sort of 50s period. It's got some really great songs in it. I love the way it's all sort of packaged up. Anybody that's seen the film Rocket Man will probably recognise this picture here of Elton John at about, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something, sat at the piano. And I love this picture of Bernie Taupin. So Bernie was for a large portion of Elton's career, and probably the period we think mostly of Elton. Elton did work with some other people for a while, sort of mid-career, and he came back to Bernie. But Bernie pretty much wrote he wrote all the lyrics for Elton's music. And I love that picture of Bernie Taupin sort of holding back the sea there, and it's got the lyrical card in here as well. It's nicely sort of packaged album. The two tracks that will be instantly, I guess, recognisable from this album is Daniel, with that sort of slightly strange, I don't know, organ. It almost sounds like a Casio keyboard playing on it. Daniel, and also Crocodile Rock, which was obviously a really big hit. And that was probably for me, I think, when I first was conscious, I guess, of who Elton John was when I heard the single Crocodile Rock, which I guess might have been in 1973, but seeing as I was only 4 at the time, I doubt it made that much of an impact, but I obviously must have heard it later on, and you know, who's this, what's this, and but I think the thing is with Elton John, and you know, I talk about this in the book. Between the Grooves, still available on Amazon, that Elton's kind of always been there. He's kind of been a constant, and I think I took it all for granted for a large period of time. You know, okay, yeah, I like Elton John. Who doesn't? You know, great songs. And then, you know, when I was about probably about 17. Around about the same time I kind of got more into David Bowie as well, I started really kind of paying attention to Elton John, and this is when this is the first Elton John album I bought, Don't Shoot Me. It also has a really beautiful song, which I'm amazed was never released as a single, actually, called High Flying Bird. That, you know, it's a song that I certainly, you know, I like to sing this, and you know, and play guitar for that song. It's a really lovely soaring song. I do wonder, one of the Gallagher brothers, I think Noel, didn't he have a band, High Flying Birds? I wonder if he took the name of that name of his band from this song. Yeah, but if you get to check it out, it's a really worth it. It's got some elderberry wine is a wonderful song, a really sort of atmospheric. Again, sort of has this sort of nostalgia to the songs. A lot of the songs they're kind of looking back, and Elderberry Wine is sort of a song looking back onto sort of better times. And also it's got Teacher I Need You as well, which is about, you know, young lad's crush on his school teacher. So, and Teenage Love Song, and Crocodile Rock itself as well has that kind of nostalgic feel, you know, sort of looking back to sort of earlier times. So he produced that Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, which I love, and I think it probably is my favourite Elton John album. But in the same year, he went and just pulled the rabbit out of the hat, you know, in to say the least. Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, which was a double album. Again, beautiful. It sort of folds right out into sort of a tri sleeve there, all sort of illustrated sort of pictures of the band, and you know, this is a really recognisable sort of image of Elton John, you know, in his platform shoes, and you know, sparkly sort of over the top jacket. And you know, this became an absolute you know, astonishing large selling album, big selling album at the time. 17 tracks. Basically, I think this is more of a showcase for Elton John's versatility, and also of Bernie Taupin's lyrics as well. All the songs have kind of different feels to them. You know, there are sort of rock and roll songs, and then, you know, and then there's ballads, and then there's country songs, and there's more jazzy kind of songs, and then there's like big band songs and what have you. So, and this produced Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which I probably think is my favourite Elton John song. I think Elton's claimed that it's not autobiographical. It's not sort of Bernie sort of reaching out to him. I don't know. It kind of sounds like it does to me, and I guess as a listener, it's up to you to make up your mind. But I've always felt it's a kind of a bit of a love letter from Bernie to Elton. You know, basically saying, you know, careful. You know, be careful of your lifestyle. You know. Remember, we come from sort of simple beginnings. So yeah, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Absolutely adore that song. It's got Bernie and the Jets. You know, a real rocker in there. Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, which again, if you've seen Rocket Man, the Elton John movie, there's a great sort of intro piece with Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, and again, it's a song that I've sung with one of the cover bands I was in. With the sort of, I'm sorry, but the sort of rather laughable name Camels, love the guys in the band, did not love the name of the band. But we used to do Saturday nights all right for fighting, and I kind of had to take maybe a quick shot of rum and prepare myself for doing that song. It's a bit of a full, head-on tune to actually sing. So obviously those songs became, they're sort of world famous songs as well. It was a number one album in both the UK and America, and stayed in the charts pretty much throughout the entire 70s. And also it's got "Candle in the Wind" on here as well, which those of you who are more at my age will remember that Elton John re-released with. And Bernie slightly rewrote the words, and it was sung at Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales funeral. So it was sort of reinterpreted for that. But the original song "Candle in the Wind," which is actually a song about Marilyn Monroe, comes from this album as well. Just it's a great album. It's a long album. It's a double, but my God, it's just the creativity and the that writing partnership was really on display here on Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. Fantastic album. Highly recommend you go and have. Well, both of those albums are actually great. Elton John. I am a big fan of Elton John. I own many of his albums. I will probably talk about Captain Fantastic and the Dirt Brown Cowboy at some point as well, and obviously his debut album as well. Well, his debut album was actually called Blue Sky, but it didn't really do very well. It's his self-titled debut album that Your Song comes from. Again, fantastic album that I'll probably cover at some point. So I was one of those idiots who got rid of a lot of my records, a lot of my vinyl collection when CDs came in. I actually held off for quite a while getting CDs, and then my then wife bought me a CD player for Christmas, and I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, and I ended up with quite an extensive CD collection, so maybe that's something I'll do in the future. But I didn't sell a lot of the albums I'm showing you. I kept, but certainly I probably only ended up with less than 100. I would have thought albums from my original collection. A lot of them I've had to repurchase. Probably not the same album, but another copy of them. That would be weird, wouldn't it? Oh look, it's just bought an album from a charity shop and it says "The Property of Sean Harris." I'm waffling now. So I resisted, but I then went. Once I got the CD bug, I was off and running, and as I say, collated quite a large CD collection, and then So this is probably about 15, maybe between 15 and 20 years ago. Can't remember. About not 20 years ago, maybe more than 15 years ago. I went around to a friend's house, and he had a lovely setup. He had the turntable, he had the floor standing speakers, and they were all positioned, real audiophile. And he said, "Oh, you got to listen to this setup." And he chose a particular album to put on to showcase his hi-fi system. And he put the needle on, and I was immediately transported. There was the slight crackle when the needle, hit the record. That what I've always described as almost that comforting sound of a crackling fire, open fire, that kind of feel. So the needle went on, a little crackle, and this album started up, and it was like cotton wool had kind of been removed from it. Like I'd been underwater for the last God knows how many years, and it was like, oh yeah, this is what music's supposed to sound like. Anyway, the album that he chose to put on was actually a compilation album of this band, Love. So this is a compilation album of Love, which features a lot of their early works, and trying to kind of showcase the band. But although it is a compilation, it sort of became Really one of their sort of bigger selling albums. They didn't actually produce that many albums, but this became quite iconic. It's got an absolutely beautiful sound to it. It's very lush. It has a sound of a particular age. It's, you know, it's kind of very hippie. It's very 60s. It's very flower power or what have you. But it just sounds absolutely amazing. And I went out and actually bought their debut album, just titled Love. But they were on the Elektra label. So this is called the Elektra album, or the Elektra Love album. Elektra Masters, sorry, excuse me. This is the album he put on, and this is the album that actually made me go, right, I've got to get back to collecting records again, and collecting vinyl. And one of the first records I went out and bought when I then bought my turntable and my speakers was Love Elektra Masters, because it just sounds so great on vinyl. It's got that, you know, the depth that 70s albums did, that sort of quite heavily compressed sort of drum and bass sound, and those kind of crisp sort of vocals, and it's got a really lush orchestration to it as well. So yeah, if you don't know it, check out Love, and you know, I would recommend getting the Elektra Masters, because it is more of a compilation that kind of introduces you to the band. This next record I actually had to take off the wall, so if you've been following, you'll know what this album will be. 1973, the bomb dropped, Queen arrived. Queen, debut album, self-titled. What I love about it, this is why it's on the wall, because it just, to me, this is, well, it's Queen. It's Freddie. Yeah, well, you know, we can assume it's Freddie with his trademark half a microphone stand held aloft in the spotlight. I have arrived. What a great cover that is. Not that many recognisable singles. You know, I talked about Queen's greatest hits a while ago, the first Queen's greatest hits a while ago, and I think the only recognisable song on here would be the intro. It's not the whole song, the intro to Seven Seas of Rye, which was their sort of first major single. But this has it has Liar on it here. It's got Night Comes Down. It's got Keep Yourself Alive, Doing Alright. A lot of the songs were originally written, I think, by Brian May in his previous band, which I think were called Smile, and brought them and sort of Freddie rewrote sort of the lyrics and put the drama, you know, into those songs. But this really is where it began, and you can hear all the trademark. It is bombastic. It is in places over the top. It is dramatic. It has the layered guitars. It has the layered harmony, vocals, absolutely drenched in harmonies, vocal harmonies. Gotta say, you know, it's my favourite Queen album. Queen and Queen 2, which came out quite rapidly after, are certainly up there. If I was going to go and listen to Queen album, of all the albums they produced, it's going to be Queen 1. Just think, it sounds so good, and you sit there and marveling at it, thinking, yeah, this is where it all started. It's got obviously Brian May's unique sounding guitar sound, that kind of almost hurdy-gurdy kind of sounding guitar. Obviously, Freddie's astonishing vocals, coupled with Roger Taylor, brilliant drumming again from Roger Taylor. And let's not forget John Deacon, holding it all down with the bass lines. Really, I used to kind of study this quite a bit, because I felt that this was kind of a real insight into the band. It looks like a lot of these are sort of candid photographs of the band in the early days. But yeah, Queen 1, just one of my favourite albums, certainly my favourite Queen album. It's just got everything you want for Queen. Okay, doesn't have the big catchy songs on it, I guess. It is a bit more slightly on the prog side. I think they were kind of at the time accused of trying to ape Led Zeppelin. There's certain Zeppelin-esque moments on this album. It's a harder album. The first few Queen albums were harder rock than what they were probably thought of in their slightly later career. But this is a great hard rock album. Yeah, it's got that kind of same, you know, hardness and power that Zeppelin has, but you know, and Freddie's vocals, can they be compared to Roger Plant? I think they're probably quite different to mine, but they are, I guess, in the higher range. But yeah, great. Queen 1, first debut album by Queen, absolutely fantastic album. Okay, so I've talked about the fact that I've been talking about certain bands and they will come up from time to time. I talked about Caravan, and I talked about In the Land of Grey and Pink, which is Caravan's seminal album. But again, it's, for me, there's a bit of a toss of the coin here as to which Caravan album I think is the best. I think, yeah, In the Land of Grey and Pink was a breakthrough album. It's a great album. It's a very, I'm using the word whimsical again. It's a whimsical album. But the other one that I put on a lot, and I don't know, is it my favourite Caravan album? We don't need to have favourites, but this is actually their 5th album with the wonderful title, sort of tongue-in-cheek title, For Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night. This is a great example of Caravan. There'd been a bit of a lineup change at this point, but Pi Hastings was firmly at the helm. It features far more elaborate orchestrations. I think, you know, the earlier albums had a more folky edge to them, but I think sort of when sort of Pi fully took the helm, really, in this album, he went more into that kind of orchestral arrangement, and it features, you know, some great songs in it, and I smile because, you know, it's a tongue-in-cheek title, For Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night. You know, they also had, you know, the album that came after this was Cunning Stunts, make of that what you will. But this features a song called The Dog, He's At It Again. No, you got to kind of laugh at this. Brilliant album, sounds absolutely fantastic. So if I was going to say, go and get a couple of Caravan albums, I would say yes, In the Land of Grey and Pink. But I'd also go for Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night, just because well, the title amuses me, the names of the song amuse me, but it's really great music, really tight music as well, with those kind of lush orchestrations, but still, I think, keeping the identity of the band, that, you know, the Canterbury scene kind of sound, with their sort of roots firmly in folk music, British folk music as well. Okay, so that's it for this episode 1973. I hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe, and as always, I'll catch you next time. And in the meantime, be good, be kind, be truthful, and be free.